Hello guys, and welcome back to Hint Hive. Today, we're going to be talking about renting versus buying a home, which is better for you. If you're new to this channel, my name is Peter, and this channel talks about financial independence, financial literacy, tips and tricks to basically help you grow as an individual and get to achieve financial independence. So if this sort of content interests you, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more videos. Now, introduction to the home ownership debate. Well, the debate of renting versus buying a home has been going on for a very long time. And while it is common in some countries to rent just because of the high cost of living, in some countries, home ownership might be a better option, depending on the prices of houses and depending on the income of the individual that wants to buy a home. If you're watching this channel, I do believe you already know what renting is. Renting is basically when you pay to live in someone else's home. Home ownership is basically when you own the house, and even though you're paying a loan, you have some equity or a portion of investment in that particular house. And one of the major differences between renting and owning a home is the equity you make while you own the home or while you pay off your mortgage loans, as well as the freedom to do whatever you want with your own home as long as it's within city rights or city permit limits. Renting, on the other hand, doesn't give you as much freedom because you can't do whatever you want with someone else's home. The housing market and what it means for millennials. Many millennials are struggling to buy a home due to high cost of housing at the moment. Housing prices are increasing at unprecedented rates and don't seem to be slowing down anytime soon, making it more difficult for people to save up the down payment. Due to the high prices involved in owning a home, most millennials have opted to go for renting instead of buying a house. This in turn has increased the demand for renting and has also increased the prices to rent a house. Now let's look at the pros and cons to buying a home. Buying a home can be a very exciting experience as well as a very stressful one. And there are many reasons why a lot of people decide to buy a home. The first and obvious one is to build equity. Some people want to build equity and just have a place that is theirs and theirs alone. Others want to invest in a property for the future because they know that the value of the house is going to be worth more than renting down the line. So the major pros for buying a house is one, building the equity. The next being that you own a home that is yours and can't be taken away unless you default on the mortgage conditions. It also comes with a sense of accomplishment or fulfillment that you have something that you can call yours and yours alone. And the downsides to owning a home is, for instance, the major one, which is the budgeting or the down payment. Being the fact that there is no fun until you saved up the down payment or you saved up enough money to buy a house. The other downside I could look at, which is not really a downside, is learning how to do basic repairs to save yourself money. When you're renting a place, you can always call up the landlord to tell him or her that this is what's wrong with your apartment and you have to fix it because I'm paying a certain amount. But when you own the home and something goes wrong, it's your responsibility to fix it. And if you want to fix it for cheap within your skill set, you could opt to learn basic repairs so you don't have to pay for everything every time. This could be stressful for some people as they just want to pay money and just live in a place without having to worry about any repairs or any other thing else. But the question becomes this: how do you figure out if buying a home is a good decision or a right decision for you at the moment? Well, it depends. Here, I'm going to outline a few questions that you have to ask yourself before making the decision to buy a home. As we all know, buying a home is one of the most important decisions as an individual that you're going to make possibly in your entire life, one of the most expensive decisions you're going to make, except you have a multi-million-dollar business. And buying a home is not just about you, it's about where you want to live, where your partner wants to live, if you have any, what the future looks like for you and your family. This is why it is very important to take some factors into consideration when looking at if this is the right decision for you at this particular time. The first question you have to ask yourself is, can I afford to buy a home? This is usually the biggest question, because if you don't have money for the down payment, you don't have money to buy the house. The next question is buying a home mathematically better for me at this point in my life? I'll give you an example. When you're buying your home, just looking at comparing the mortgage to the rent, for instance, when you're renting, all your rent is basically going towards the mortgage of the other person, but to you, that rent becomes the interest. When you own a home and you're paying mortgages, a certain portion of that mortgage goes towards the interest. So if, let's say, 50% of your mortgage goes towards the interest, just throwing out numbers here, and 100% of your rent goes towards the interest, which is money you're never going to get back, you have to compare between both of them. Let's say, for instance, you're renting for $2,000 and you could get a mortgage for, let's say, $1,000 or even the same $2,000. So $2,000 on one end goes towards interest, you're never going to see that money back, or $2,000 on the other end goes towards the mortgage, where even if $1,500 goes towards the interest, which is not possible, but let's even say 1,500, or let me make it a little bit more realistic. Let's say 50%, which is 1,000, goes towards the interest. Now you're paying 1,000 that you will never get back on the mortgage here, and you're paying 2,000 that you will never get back on the rental here. Which would be better for you at that particular point in time? Next is, am I ready to commit to paying a mortgage every month? While this one is important, I feel like you don't really have too much of an option here, because you either pay the mortgage or you pay your rental. You're not gonna stay in a landlord's place and not pay the rent. So you are also making a commitment to pay rent, just that this time you're making a commitment to pay the mortgage, which in turn helps you build equity for yourself. Next is, do I want to be tied down by monthly maintenance fees? While most people don't talk about this portion when it gets to owning a home, it's quite important because the utilities and all that when owning a home sometimes get more expensive than when you're renting, depending on where you're renting. So you also have to factor that into the consideration that if you're owning this home, can you keep up with the monthly maintenance fees? Because that could be extra money that comes out of your savings every time. Next is, am I financially stable? Well, this is a tricky one because only you can define if you're financially stable or not. And while we all don't think we're financially stable, sometimes we tend to overthink this, or we undergo analysis paralysis when it gets to owning a home. Always try to make it as simple for yourself as possible. Can I afford this payment every month? Yes or no? Can I afford this rent every month? Yes or no? How much am I saving from going from a rental to owning a home? It doesn't matter the type of house, but how much am I saving? Once you can get those questions answered, then you know if it's worth it for you to buy the home today. Another thing is, do you want to build equity while you're waiting? Because sometimes the home prices keep going up, and except you can save, let's say the home price increases by 20,000 or 30,000 in a year, except you can save up an extra 30,000 in a year between now and the next year, chances are you're better off buying now so that that 20 or 30,000 could be in your equity when the house appreciates as inflation rises. So sometimes you might not be too comfortable owning a home today just because the prices are so high and everything's so tight, but you also have to think of the future. If I'm not owning a home today, will I be able to own a home next year? But the thing is, if you ever decide that owning a home is not right for you, you also have to come up with a plan to invest the difference. That way you're trying to keep up with the economy and you're not getting poorer as inflation comes in. And with that, we can say now that at some stage in your life, you're always going to be faced with this question of, should I rent or should I buy a home? And your answer would be based on different things happening in your life at that particular time. There is no right or wrong answer to this. Yes, buying a home helps you build wealth, helps you build equity, helps you save in some ways if you have problems saving on your own. But at the same time, renting and investing in the right assets could also make you achieve financial independence. The problem becomes that when you're renting, a certain amount of consistency and discipline comes into play that you have to invest the difference. Otherwise, you're not going to come out ahead compared to buying a home. So to summarize this, renting would be good if you can invest the difference between your rent and the mortgage. Owning a home is also good if that fits your current lifestyle, or your family's expanding, or you're just looking to invest in something and you're not so familiar with other forms of investing like the stock market. And when done well, even though some people could argue that one is better than the other, I believe that as long as it gets you to the same point, it doesn't matter. Just do what works for you and what works for your overall financial goals. With that, I'll leave it here. I'd like to do more videos on real estate in the future because it helps me deal with stock market returns and hedge against inflation too as well. If you like this content, don't forget to subscribe and leave a thumbs up to help grow the channel. Till next time, I'm Peter, and thanks for watching Hint Hive. I'll see you again.